Who wants a pot of coffee? I just made coffee. You want a cup of coffee? Sure, there you go. Who wants coffee? Anybody else want coffee? Who wants coffee?
And now it's time for the man with the caffeine, the new tropics for the brain. It's Coffee with Mike. Hang in, hang tight, grab your cup, and let's get this thing started.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Java Chat. This is Coffee with Mike, and today I have another guest from like around the world. I've been getting a lot of international guests lately, and this wonderful woman here is no exception. She's out of the Southern Hemisphere, a wonderful little place called Australia. Her name is Anita Parer. Anita, thank you for joining us on Java Chat.
Thank you, Michael, for having us today.
Yeah. I'm sure we have a lot of wonderful things to go through, so we'll start with the basics. As we always do, we always ask our guests, who are you? Where are you from? How'd you get to where you're at today?
A very good, really good entry question, Michael. So there's a bit of a story to that as well. So even though I live
that's why I asked you on this. That's why I asked you on the podcast. I'm sure there's a story there somewhere.
Straight into it. Even though I work and live in Melbourne, Australia since something like 17 years now, I'm actually originally from Austria. Right? And Austria,
nice.
For anyone who pictures Austria is like from where the hills are life, it's literally from where I'm from, right? So,
like, you know where that hill is?
Yeah, there's too many hills.
Gotcha.
No, but if anyone knows the area, it's near Steyr, so which is sort of in the upper, sort of mid-upper north of Austria. And yeah, grew up in Austria, typical family, nothing special. My dad was a salesman, my mum was a kindergarten nurse. And, as I was growing up there, the question always was, high school, not high school, finish school, what do you want to become? Do you want to work in the local shop? Maybe you want to become, kindergarten nurse, just like your mum. And I thought, that's maybe good for a summer job, but I can't imagine doing that for 40 years. Growing up in a family where no one really had university degrees or anything, no one ever encouraged me to go down that path. Yeah. And it was really, in fact, it was something which was actually discouraged because you're the girl. Why would you want to waste your time going and study something? Why don't you, become the nurse for the local doctor? And I'm like, why would I want to become the nurse if I could become the doctor, right?
Exactly.
Or do you want to become an air hostess? A friend of us was a pilot, for Austrian Airlines. It's like, air hostess, they travel the world and they have really good jobs. And I'm like, I'm more interested flying that plane and being in the back serving the people. So from a very early age on, I knew that, I'm a go-getter and I need to really go after my dreams. But what I didn't know back then was, what the power, focus and determination actually can achieve in a person, right? You kind of grow up with the family you're born in, and then the surroundings just set in, and there's a lot of beliefs sort of being put on you, what you can and can't do about your abilities. Yeah, so long story short, I finished high school, of course, and I did go to university, of course, against everyone thinking you never go through university because you're simply not smart enough.
Wow. Talk about thanks for the faith, guys. Appreciate it. Holy cow.
Well, why would you do it? Why would you waste your time with something like that? So anyhow, I did it, and as part of the journey, I really discovered that, heck, if you focus on something, it's amazing what you can actually achieve. Yeah. And if you really put your full willpower against something, you're actually really good in what you do. And as part of that university journey, we had the opportunity to go overseas for a term to study somewhere else, and where the story is going.
Oh, I love it.
And a few of us decided, Australia would be awesome. And of course, my family said, why the hell would you want to go to Australia? Why don't you do, for God's sake, what everyone else does? Go to London or go to Sweden, right? Like Australia, it's like literally the other end of the world.
Let's get to the point.
And I said, well, no, I really want to do this because I can go to London on the weekend. Why would I want to be there for half a year, right?
Isn't there a bridge now too that you can just go underwater or something like that now? They have some kind of underground.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and
I'll go there for lunch. I'll be back next week. I'll be back after lunch, Mom. See you in a bit.
Yeah, that's it. You can visit me for the weekend.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I was like, what's the fun in that?
It wasn't too exciting enough.
No,
yeah, I thought Australia is something a bit different. Yeah. And anyhow, my family decided collectively, they were sitting me down over dinner one night and said, so they decided I'm not going to Australia. And I'm like, I'm so sorry, but I'm going to go. And yeah, anyhow, so I did another thing, kind of just happened. You put your mind on something. They said, well, they would not financially support me. It's like, well, that's okay. I can do part-time jobs next to uni and save up and do it anyway, right? And I think, that, again, for me, the lesson learned as part of the journey was, if you're determined, you find a way how to make it happen. Yeah, and you're not the result of the people around you or what happens to you. You're the result of your own actions, and you've got to take accountability for outcomes.
Yeah, I find that it's very interesting that the ones who claim to love us the most are the first ones to try to stop our dreams. And it's not done intentionally to hurt us. It's done because they don't want us to get hurt by the rest of the world at large. They think that, well, maybe you shouldn't go. Maybe you should just go get a job. Okay, I can go get a job, but that's not where I'm going to stay. I have other aspirations. Don't worry about your dreams. Don't worry about. I remember when I was a kid, my teachers used to tell me, get your head out of the clouds. Get your head out of the clouds. You're never going to do that. And I look at them today, half of them are unfortunately no longer around, because I'd like to go back and say, listen, I appreciate you telling me that, I needed to keep my head out of the clouds. But look what's been achieved. Look where I'm at now. Look what I'm doing. I get to talk to people around the world. I get to share their stories with everybody else. And I get to make some amazing connections with people. I make new friends in different countries every week. Back in the day, you even talked like that. You were sent to the funny farm. In Hawaii, we called it the red roof. Because that's literally the state hospital. It's a red roof. So they don't mean it. It just, they think they're helping. And at this point, it's like, you've made the means to get out there and get to Australia. You're there. Now what? Yeah,
it's super, super interesting. Very interesting debate.
So we were kind of discussing a little bit on the shift. I mean, you got to Australia. There had to have been a culture shock. That's at least one part that I'm sure we're going to hear a little bit about. But what were some of the new challenges? I mean, you decided to move halfway around the globe, kind of on your own. Like literally, your family just kind of went, well, you're gonna go. It's on you. It's like, wow, nice way to throw your kid out to the wolves. What was that like?
Yeah, look, certainly interesting, right? And a time of, a lot of self-learning and reflecting. And look, I never had a fallout with my family as such, it was just
thank goodness
kind of views and we had healthy debates. And I think they had to accept that I'm stubborn and I'm going my way. And in the end of the day, I think they were still excited about me being so determined about my wants, and then just accepting it. But moving to Australia was interesting, right? Because, I came over as a student first, and then I came back to Austria, and I came back to Australia because, of course, as a student, we had the time of our life, and I met my now husband, who kept me come back to Australia, of course. But it was a big decision when I finally made the move because, it's a one-way ticket with one suitcase and, you literally travel to the other end of the world, not quite knowing what your future holds. But again, it teaches you that focus and determination brings you a long way, and being clear about, the life you want to lead. Yeah. Because no matter the circumstances, well, may not be correct, right? I also acknowledge that I'm quite privileged, having grown up in Austria and having a university degree and whatnot. There's people who don't have the privilege, yeah. But I think, knowing your objectives and knowing, where you want to go, what you want to achieve, what type of life you want to have now, in 5 years, in 10 years, in 30, 40 years when you're retired, right? Having the kind of vision makes decision-making and actions clearer.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that vision sometimes doesn't come with, I don't know. I mean, you may have, a certain idea of what kind of job you want to have, or a certain idea about the type of lifestyle or materialistic things you want to have, yeah, which, kind of narrows down what decisions you want to make in life. And, if you're disciplined and focused, you very likely are going to achieve what you set out to do.
Absolutely. Set a target, shoot at it. And even if you don't hit the moon, sometimes you land somewhere among the stars. That's for sure. That's an old cliche. So when you got there, you did your thing, you went home, you came back. Where'd you start? Did you just go into work, or what did you do?
Yeah, I was determined to find a job. So I did like speed interviews. And I was lucky enough to land my first job with Accenture in Australia, which is a well-known global consulting business.
They're all over the place.
Yeah, they're everywhere. And look, it was interesting. And that, again, set me up with a good professional network with like-minded people who are from everywhere in the world, ambitious, driven, worked incredibly hard during the time, like literally very, very, very hard, where friends again said, why the heck are you doing this, right? But I had this vision of achievement, and I wanted to prove maybe to myself, or others, of, I was on the track of, I wanted to get somewhere, and I knew where I wasn't satisfying myself yet. Yeah.
Right.
So I worked very hard, and I was lucky enough to very quickly shoot through the ranks. Not in Accenture, but I kind of hopped around a bit. Sure. And I'd say, within 6, 7, 8 years, I was leading a consulting team across APAC for a global technology business. Yeah.
Nice.
Wasn't an easy ride, right? If
Never is.
So you kind of get given those opportunities, which, sometimes above your experience level. You got to grow fast. You got to, work on yourself. You got to be disciplined. You got to learn from others. You got to take coaches and mentors. And be inspired by the people around you who have the experience.
I find it very rewarding to be able to, again, like I get to talk with different people. I come across some of the mentors. We had David Meltzer on Java Chat once. We had Mark Harris. Sometimes these names are known, sometimes they're not. But these are all people that are out there doing mentorship and sharing their story. There was a young lady I had who is an author, and her name escapes me. I'll have to put it in so that everybody knows who she is. But she did a whole series on Asian women who lead. And man, you should see some of the people that she talks to. Or talked to, actually. She interviewed it and put it in a book. Amazing to see what determination, because every one of them, determination is always an element in their plan, and it's always a part of their journey is nothing's going to stop me. It's just a setback. Which is another reminder. Guy by the name of Willie Jolly, who's a motivational speaker, he's always said he kind of coined it. A setback is a setup for a comeback. And it doesn't matter what your setback may have been, it usually shows you another path. Like you mentioned, you didn't go straight up in Accenture. You moved around and you leveled up as you went around. Sometimes that's how it has to go. And there's nothing wrong with it, because, hey, you're growing. It's not about the company's journey. They have their own objectives and goals. It's about your own journey. Where are you? What are you doing? Make sense?
Yeah, 100%, and, you gotta, I feel like, the work environment is a bit like a chess game. You gotta play your cards, and, wherever it works out, that's where you move. And sometimes it's easier to move, to other companies to accelerate that path, or sometimes within a company, the opportunities just line up and you have the right support, and, you shoot through the ranks.
And
So
Connie,
I personally think there's no right or wrong answer to that. It really depends on where the opportunities open up for you.
truly, because it proves itself in both models, and continues to do so no matter what happens. You went through all of that. You somewhere along the line gained enough experience where you are now in a different realm. You're no longer corporate per se, but you certainly work with them. How did that all come about?
Yeah, look, very interesting question. So for me, entrepreneurship was always a thing since since I was young. I've been brewing business ideas.
No, we could never tell that, Bestie.
And it's like, when you're younger, like I never was brave enough. I had the means to really execute on some of those ideas. But then 3 or 4 or 5 years later, it's like, oh my God, that's exactly the idea I had. And look how well it's being executed now. I knew I should have done something about that 5 years ago. So long story short, I've been sticking to my guns. I've been working in consulting my entire career since I kicked off in Australia 17 years ago, and always focused on customer experience and digital marketing. Always was, tech savvy and data driven. And today I'm just amazed, and you can see the passion come through now about what technology can do in this space. The whole thing with blockchain and our AI and metaverse, and where's the whole thing with customer engagement going for large organizations. And having worked with global tech companies and having worked there with the product development team and hearing their visions of where they see tech going, I'm like, I love working with companies on the other side and help them on the journey to play a significant role in the experience economy. And, you get to a point in your career where you got to make a decision. Like you reach those senior roles where you can go more senior and take bigger roles, which is there's benefits in that. Or you say, well, actually, I'd like to do my own thing now. I've learned everything there is to learn. I'm a master in my skills, and I'd like to use that and package that up as a direct service to the to the environment or to the companies out there, and that's the path I've chosen.
Absolutely, that's it's definitely the entrepreneur's path. When you look at it from the standpoint of, man, there's so many more people I could help. I should be out there doing more. It's kind of how we are. It's kind of how you were too. You obviously had the bug very young. I mean, it was the determination and everything to go do something different rather than the status quo of what was expected. This is just the entrepreneur journey. We go out, we challenge ourselves continuously. We're always looking for something better, but we're always looking to see who we can help. Where can we solve a problem? Where can we increase for something? Which is phenomenal. So fast forward to today, you have a consultancy, like you said, you've been in for 17 years. And it's always been based just around the technology as it improves a company. Is that correct?
Yeah, always around customer experience technology. Yeah. So 15 years ago, that was called the CRM systems, and sort of the single customer through the golden records and whatnot. But as time progresses, that more becomes a really holistic, omni-channel, real-time, personalized engagement with your customer at scale, right? Like if you are a telco, a bank, an airline, a retailer, how do you engage with your customers? And for organizations, the whole debate then becomes, well, how do you monetize that engagement, right? How do you make sure you create a loyal customer base? How do you make sure that if someone buys a laptop online, you also buy them the mouse and maybe the extension cord or the clip-on light or camera, up and cross-sell. And, it's not only the monetization part, which, is interesting. Of course, that's the driver for organizations. But on the other side, as a user, as a consumer and customer, don't we enjoy if something just works? Don't we enjoy if, you order something, buy something, you have good service, your questions are answered, you see what you're looking for, the delivery is smoothless, and if there's a problem, it's being fixed fast.
Right.
Yeah?
Right. That's all the stuff. Yeah, it's part of the well, they used to call it UX. Now it's always evolving. They're always coming up with some new name for it. But yeah, it really does come down to the consumer being able to say, well, cool, that works like I expected it to. Oh, and it can do that kind of stuff too. That's cool too. We like that as well. That's excellent. Right on. Kind of companies that you work with, we'll talk more about a little bit later. What we do want to do is we want to take a short break, 30 seconds. When we come back, we're going to talk about some of the things that Anita did to keep herself going. Because trust me, in the midst of a whole family telling you, yeah, you're on your own, as much as you're still friendly with them and you can have healthy debates, it can get frustrating. It can get a little bit wearing on you. So we'll be back in 30 seconds. And we're back here, Java Chat, Coffee with Mike, sitting here with Anita Parer. We're talking a little bit about how she got to be a consultant, which is what she does now, dealing with the user experience. And when we first started talking about where she started, she already started running into walls. And that was literally just simply because people expected the status quo. And again, we talked about that, sometimes they do it because they love you. They want to see if you're truly determined, or maybe they just don't get it. Thankfully, in your case, they really wanted to see if you were truly determined, that they wanted to see whether or not you were going to do it or not. But in the midst of that, you went to school and you went to college, you decided to go out and you did the thing in Australia, and you went home and you came. Somewhere in all of this, as you're going through your journey, you meet people. Somebody had to have had some kind of effect on you that confirmed your determination was the right thing. Who were some of those people? Where did you meet them?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. And, for me, that was always people I worked with.
Sure,
right?
sure.
It's, in an environment where you deal with a lot of people, you have, senior operators, you seek out as mentors, people who believe in you, who see that spark in you and are willing to invest and coach you on the way. So I've been very lucky. I've been working with, I'd say, maybe 2 or 3 absolutely outstanding leaders over the years. And those people are, how shall I say, they're top performers in their own right? They're thought leaders. They've been overachievers. They have had a wealth of experience at the point when I was working with them. And, those people, not at the same time, but one at a time, help you, with your self-development questions. Because as a leader, or as you set out, doing your own thing, the question really boils down to you. Who are you as a person, right? So you really got to understand how you as a person work first before you can go and grow into any senior role, or before you can go and lead a team. I mean, and management and micromanagement is probably slightly different, but if you really want to accelerate into leadership role, the first question is, who are you as a person? What values and principles guide your decision making? Why do you want to, go up that path and aspire to that specific role? And, what core values do you want to present? I mean, in today's world, there's so many leaders who fail to make decisions, right? Well, why is it? Are they scared to make the wrong decisions? Are they not clear about their decision-making principles? Are they worried about the implication of making a decision or of speaking up because they want to stand up for the right thing? So I think the world, needs more people who are clear on their values and their principles, so they are brave enough to make decisions, act or speak up when the time is right, because they disagree with something or they think there's a better way of doing things. And, coming back to your question, I had people around me who really worked with me to understand, who I am as a person. And as part of the journey, I also hired a professional coach and mentor, where we did, amazing work together with the typical neuro-linguistic programming and visioneering and really analysing all the trigger points, right? Like each person has trigger points. You may find yourself in super stressful situations where you suddenly, the anxiety kicks in and you can't think clearly anymore, or the workload is so overwhelming that the productivity levels go absolutely down the cellar. Yeah. So in those situations, I think it's really, really, again, important to know yourself, right? Understand who you are and who you work, how you work, and unravel that. And it's often not easy to do that by yourself. So I can only encourage anyone who is in the journey at the moment, find help, right? And the help, can be your manager, but doesn't have to be your manager, right? It can be an informal mentor. It can be a senior friend. It can be a private coach you pay, right? Who helps you overcome that hurdle to get you to the next step for you as a person, right? Because self-development never ever stops. Doesn't matter how senior you are, how experienced you are, and whatnot. There's always something, you can work on yourself to get better, or to be the better person.
Absolutely. I actually have a couple of friends who are C-levels, and even they're always hiring coaches. They're always hiring other people to kind of take a look at what they're doing and how they're doing it. They're always looking to improve in some way, somehow. Who was it that just told me they had hired a coach just to teach them how to take time for themselves? Because they're highly stressed people. They have a lot of decisions to make, and they do have to decide stuff, and they do know that they're not going to please everybody when they do it. It's gonna upset a good portion of people because they may not have the same values that my friend has. And he's like, I was definitely afraid of how many people I would hurt, until he understood that it wasn't about hurting anybody. It was about making a stand for something, whatever that is, whether that's corporate policy or if it's something that he personally believes is his own values. He can't compromise his own values just because it's going to offend a whole bunch of people. He still has to stand by what he believes in. That he did a couple times make a couple of choices that he realized were probably not quite for his values. He's also made a couple of choices where he may have been able to hold off and wait for certain things to settle. And this is all just corporate business stuff. Had nothing to do with the stuff that's going on right now. Right now it's just a mess. I don't care what you do. But the idea of it was that he began to learn more about how his decision-making process internally worked. He gave him a big epiphany, and he's like, okay, now I understand why I feel this way when I have that kind of decision, when I'm confronted with that kind of decision. And it made it a lot easier for him. Now he's just like, I understand the process, and I'm going to decide when it comes. It doesn't matter anymore. Not that the decision doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that he's, he no longer waits. He used to sit and contemplate. And if anybody remembers the story of Henry Ford, he was one of those guys that made decisions quickly and changed his mind very slowly. I mean, you really had to give him a lot of good reasons for him to go, okay, fine, we'll do this instead. So, and it was one of the reasons for his great success. He was solid in what he did. He researched what he did. He had all the smart people around him telling him what was going on, and then he made a choice. And as leaders, whether we're entrepreneurs or we're in the corporate structure, we have to be, smart enough to say, okay, I need enough information, because you don't want to become an overthinker. I need enough information to make a solid, informed decision. And then I need to decide, because if I don't, I've got all these people behind me that are sitting there waiting on me. And it's only disservicing them. So excellent. Any books that you have read that got you on your journey, as far as, especially in consulting? I mean, there's a ton of books. Have you read any good ones?
Oh yeah, constantly reading, Mike, and on the topic, there's probably a few books which I can mention. One is the 5-second rule, right? It talks about procrastination.
I love that book.
How procrastination just actually stops people from acting, and being clear about your values and your principles will allow you to make decisions faster. Because I think also not making a decision is a decision by itself.
Yes, it is. You've decided not to.
And it's definitely important to move forward. But other books, a really interesting one to change gears slightly was a book I just read recently, which is called The 4-Day Work Week.
Oh, that's by Joe.
Yeah, and
Joe Sanek, he's going to be on the podcast soon too. Excellent. I'm glad you read that
oh,
book.
really? Is he?
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. So, I mean, I greatly enjoyed it because, you know, COVID and working from home and not physically being in the office anymore to do the 9 to 5 or 8 to 10 or
Whatever it was,
many
right?
hours people work, is, you know, really got me reflecting and say, well, you know, what is it? How do I want to work? Yeah, how many hours do I want to work per week? And now that I've sort of left the corporate world, I can even ask myself more the question, right? So the whole question then become productivity and, you know, how do you structure your day to get productive results? Because everyone's busy. You can always be busy, but busyness doesn't equal value and output.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
And that book really inspired me to reflect on the structure of the day, the structure of the workload, how you create space to be in the zone to create high valuable outputs. Yeah. And
I just realized that the book you're talking about is Tim Ferriss, not Joe. Joe wrote a new book called Thursday's the New Friday.
oh, yeah, no, it was by New Zealand author. I can't recall the author's name anymore. I probably have it somewhere lying around here, but
it's probably Tim. If it's 4 hour anything, it's usually Tim Ferriss. And he's written a whole bunch of 4 hour stuffs. 4 hour work week, 4 hour body, 4 hour this. It's they're all great books, and he's got it down. It comes down to productivity, being the most productive you can be, and leveraging other things to keep that productivity moving when you have other things to do. So it definitely makes it where you have more choices, like you said, on where to be productive, when to be productive, and how to bring more value to the table. Gotcha. Had to correct that because I was thinking about it, and I looked over and I was like, I don't think Joe's book is that. And his book's like sitting right there. so I looked over and I was like, no, that's not 4 hour work. Oh, that's right. That's Tim. Sorry, Tim, if you're listening to this, please don't shoot me. But yeah, it's still, his is another one too. Joe's got another book, and when he gets on the podcast, he'll talk more. It's within the realm of that 4 hour work week. It's like more of a 4 day work week, which is again, it goes back to what you said. It's about productivity and the ability to improve to a point where, you know, I can get 4 or 5 hours worth of work done in 2, then I can go do something else.
Yeah, spot on, right? And the thing is, you know, it comes back to understanding yourself, right? What are the times of the day when you're most productive, right? How many hours of sleep do you need to be fully in the zone? How do you create that space of full focus, right? Do you turn off all your notifications, all your 15 different channels where you get pinged nowadays, at any time of the day? How do you create that space, right? And therefore, you know, how do you drive that valuable outcome? And then what times of the day do you use for socializing, for face-to-face meetings, for working through emails, for being, you know, reactive versus the proactive development of stuff?
Yep.
Yeah.
I have a friend who actually sets time aside for reactive time. Like literally, is like, I got 2 hours, a couple days a week for unexpected meetings. I was like, okay, that's an expecting the unexpected. That's an interesting status to be in. He's like, well, considering the business that I'm in, there's a lot of unexpected. So I usually try to keep a couple hours open for that. I was like, that's cool. I'd never heard of that one before.
Yeah, and then that's spot on, right? And I think again that comes back to, you know, the management or how do you manage your inbox, right? Simple, practical, and tactical tools. I think anyone who, you know, gets busy with whatever needs to self-invest. You know, if you have a challenge, there's always a solution to whatever problem you have. Like someone has had the same situation before, and surely someone has figured out a good way of how to manage a certain situation. And I'm a big believer in you know, own personal productivity. And, you know, it even goes that far that you can say, well, you know, where do you schedule or plan the time for self-development?
Yeah. Every expert, every guru says you got to set some time aside for it.
Yeah. Or for sports, right? Mm-hmm. If you know you're in a high-performing environment, we all know if you don't look after yourself, eventually your productivity will go down, right? So where do you find the time to do sports? And coming back to books, right, I've read another really good one, which is called, I think it's called the 5 a.m. Club. Oh, nice. So there's a whole movement out there about, getting up really early in the morning and doing all those things before the day actually starts. So the whole idea is you get up at 5, you take the time to maybe meditate. You take the time to read 15 minutes or 30 minutes in your book, or maybe 3 minutes, but you do it daily, right? You take the time to do your sports and maybe catch up on the news, and then you have your morning coffee, and then the family gets up and you have already done all of those things, before the day actually kicks off. So it's about being organized and being, making conscious decisions of driving the outcome of your own destiny.
That's awesome. I was writing down the name of the book. I'm going to go see if I can go find that, because I'm a 5 a.m.er. Sometimes I'm a 4:30 a.m.er. I don't know why I do that to myself,
wow.
But yeah, it's true. 5 a.m. My son doesn't get up until probably 8 o'clock. So I've got like almost 3 hours to go do stuff. And literally it's check all of the communications, check all the platforms, make sure everybody's getting all of their posts out, make sure all of the whoever's managing the social gets the social out. I do mines. By the time it's like 6:30, I've gotten probably about 2 hours worth of work done already. And then 7 o'clock rolls around. I'm either just finishing some sandbag workouts, and then I come outside and have some coffee, sit down and chill out for a while. Then usually first appointment somewhere around 9:30, 10 o'clock. So I still got all that time to sit and reflect, try to figure out what I'm going to be doing next. So, I mean, even after this, I've got more stuff to do until 5 o'clock. And then after 5 o'clock, it's me and my boy, because that's our time. So it really does matter. It's really good. That's awesome. The 5 a.m. club, the 4-hour work week. We'll have those links down in the comments here in a minute. Guys, we're going to take one more 30-second break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about consulting and what Anita actually does. All right, be back in 30. And we're back. Java Chat, sitting here at Coffee with Mike with Anita Parer, and we've been having a good chat this whole time. And we're just talking on the break. It's like, that's how fast this thing goes. It's like, we're almost done. Like, yeah, pretty much. We're almost done. It goes that quickly. This one, we get to talk a little bit more about Anita's company and what she does. Now, she is a consultant, and she works with a lot of different clients. I want to say mostly in the tech industry. Am I fairly in the realm on that one?
Yes, spot on, Mike. So it's always been around technology and sort of various applications which are out there.
What kinds of cool things have you got to consult on? Because being in the tech, obviously, in the beginning, you were talking about how some of the new stuff that's coming out. What are some of the fun things that you've come across so far?
Well, so I work in customer experience, and I think, what really excites me most is, I guess, the data side of things. Yeah. And with data, I'm just amazed, like literally all the time, about how much data organizations can actually capture about everyone. Yeah. And I have, friends who are still worried about Facebook and putting something on Facebook, but it's like, you know what, like I personally don't even worry about Facebook, because no matter what you do, the data is collected, right?
Oh yeah.
So for example, to give you an idea, we've been talking to an organization who they capture data on people's mobile phones, and based on the apps you download, they are tracking, app user behavior and app sort of content behavior, and based on that, they can profile, specific attributes across every single person who, you may not even know that stuff is happening in the background, right?
Right.
So the question for me then becomes more an ethical one, right? Organizations have, and it's, not only the tech companies, it's also the banks, the retailers, the Googles, the Facebooks, of course, you name it. Everyone collects data. Data is the new currency in the digital world. So the question becomes, it's what's the ethical use of the data? And we often work with, CMOs of large organizations who, we have to debate on, okay, well, we have all the data about our customers, and how can we use that to go and advertise and communicate with them? But it's not the question, can I use the data? It's more the question, well, what of the data should I actually use? Yeah?
Right.
From geotagging to, down to about 1,000 attributes of who you are, what you like, what you don't like, hobbies, interests, you know, just simple browsing behavior online and the kind of news you follow. You know, it's all out there, you know, and it doesn't really matter which channel you use to do that.
I don't think people really understand just how much is actually collected on them. It becomes really Big Brother-ish, if you will. Because when I started studying identity resolution and understanding how data is collected and stored, at first I was like, well, this is kind of unnerving how much they actually know about what I do online. And when I found out that, okay, yes, the machines know, sometimes the companies know, bigger companies definitely collect information on you because you go to their store, either online or in person. They know what you bought. They know how often you bought. They know, you know, what your preferences are. I mean, geez, Sears was really good at that in the day when they were really thriving. I mean, they had sectioned out their customers into, you know, S1, S2, S3 likes to buy this stuff, and T1 likes to buy that stuff. And here's the majority of everybody else that buys this stuff. And I looked at that and I was like, this was back in the 90s, by the way, that I saw that. So that's like old style data collection. Can't imagine what they got now. A lot. And the ethical question, as you mentioned, of most CMOs these days, who now have become very important to corporations. Not so long ago, they were the first ones that got chopped if revenues were down. Now they're like the last because they have so much more. Companies have invested so much more into, like you said, the customer experience. And the CMOs know this stuff. They know it very well. As you've done that, you're working with these companies. What kind of trends are you seeing? Like what are some of the things that you see going on in the consumer market as it applies to some of the companies that you work with?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think in principle, organizations are very aware of what they can and can't do with the data they collect and what they should and shouldn't do with the data they collect. So I think there's a great sense of corporate responsibility out there.
Awesome. That's good to hear.
I don't think there's any single organization or tech platform, you know, which, you know, you can point a finger on and say, well, they are the bad ones and they are collecting all the data. I think, like, you know, we are in a data time age, right? It's all digital. It's just where technology goes, you know. And I think everyone is collecting data about their customers, you know, whatever that level of detail is. So it's not something which can be stopped, I believe. What I see is really I guess, healthy and mature debate about the use of data. So it benefits the people and it benefits, of course, the organizations as well, but in the right way, right? So I don't think any of the organizations I've ever been working with have done anything creepy or have anyhow abused the data they would have had access to. Yeah, so I think there was always a great level of responsibility there and really doing the right thing. And, you know, nowadays there's also a lot of legal rules across the globe of what organizations can and can't do. So, you know, I mean, that obviously also is a big component in the use of data and the security of data.
Yeah, that's the whole GDPR thing had a lot of people in the US completely confused because it's not just that, but each nation state also had other rules on top of that. So like literally when we were talking with a company that wanted to market in certain countries in Europe, and we asked them why only them, why not everybody? And they said, did you see the rule changes lately? So well, I know there's GDPR and there's that, and there's like, yeah, those countries are the ones that have the least rules. Everybody else has been racking and stacking them, and we don't want to get in trouble. And I did a little bit of research, not a ton, but the moment I got into the rules and regulations on a couple of them, I was like, I get it. I wouldn't want to advertise there either. you get superly scrutinized these days. It's really heavy, and rightfully so. There's some bad actors out there. We all know about them.
Yeah.
They're the ones that the rules are created for. Makes it harder on those of us.
Yeah, no, 100%. You're spot on, right, Michael. And I think, you know, where it's going with the corporate world is really the more, you know, standing back around the end-to-end experience economy, right? So I think still a lot of organizations have challenges with broken, siloed data, disconnected channel, even though the talk is out there about the omni-channel personalized experience, reality is a lot of organizations are struggling to execute still on it, unless you are, a startup and you can start from scratch and set everything up from the get-go to enable that. Any organization who's older than 10 or 15 years would struggle because they have the legacy history of data and technology, and it's a constant catch-up, yeah? So you may think you've done something 3 years ago and you've done this major business transformation to enable that, but the technology is always evolving, right? Everything is in the cloud, new functions and features and abilities are constantly dropped. So it's always this catch-up mode. And the consumers, specifically with COVID, consumers' expectations have changed dramatically, right? So they expect a lot. The tolerance for errors is really low. The switching barriers is really low, no matter what kind of industry you're in. And as an organization, you're compared to, the top experience organizations out there. It doesn't matter whether you're a utility business, you're being compared with the Uber, right?
Yep.
Or with the Netflix, yeah?
Yep.
Of the personalized, easy to use things. So you're not being compared with other utilities businesses. You're just being seen as a business hard to deal with. And why are you not as easy as those ones over there?
Yeah. Yep. So what does Kite Consulting do specifically? Is that what you consult on, is how to get them to that point to where they can be compared to Netflix, where people can say, hey, they might be a utility, but geez, it's as easy to deal with them as it is Uber. Is that kind of what you do?
Yeah, pretty much. So we look at customer experience from a holistic point of view for usually mid to large scale organizations. And, customer experience is like omni-channel. It's sales, service, marketing, web, app, in-store, so you name it, right? So it's the analysis around the customer journey and looking into the organization to see, to analyze the processes, the tech, the data, the people, right? Do the people have a customer-centric mindset? For example, as an airline, right, you may have the best tech, but if the air hostess or the check-in person on the ground is rude to you because they don't care about you as a person and you want to swap a seat or have a special request, the whole experience may be broken. So we help organizations really understand customer experience from a holistic point of view. We use a very specific assessment model and framework, what we use to drill down in all of those elements, and really show where the gaps are in organization. And then we bring it back up and work with the leadership team on a plan forward, because often the senior executives might think, oh, well, we've just invested, I don't know how many million in a CX system or in the master data system. But then they realize, well, out of the millions of records they have in their database, 80% are actually out of date and old or redundant. So sometimes, the executive team doesn't really know where the problems actually are. And it's an always changing and evolving field. So one of the things we do very well is analyze that, strip it down, pull it back up, and then work with the executive team on having a plan forward of how they can best close the gap and where the problems actually are.
Smoking. That's exactly what a consulting firm should do. That's awesome. Quick, where can people find you online?
Oh, well, we have a huge presence on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is, I'd say, our main interaction channel for the corporate world with our tech. Kite Consulting is our LinkedIn channel, and Kite is with Kyte, just to be clear. So we do also weekly live videos where we discuss sort of exactly those topics, customer experience across industries, for whether it's for local councils, for higher education, for retailers. There's a lot of debates going on, what we do as well. So anyone interested, please dial in and follow us. And of course, we also have a website, kiteconsulting.com.au. I'd say that's our key channels. Please get in touch.
Awesome. So, for those watching and those who are listening, oh, my allergies today, goodness. My listeners know that I deal with this a lot. For those that are watching, Down below, you'll see the links. You'll see the book titles too as well. Make sure you follow them. Make sure you reach out to them. If you're a senior exec or even a mid-level exec, and you see that there might be some issues with your customer experience or your omni-channel marketing, get a hold of them. I'm sure there's a conversation to be had. Don't forget, subscribe, hit the bell, so you know when we get another great guest like Anita here. If you're listening on Anchor or any of the other platforms that a podcast broadcasts on, like Spotify, etc., download or subscribe. If you wouldn't mind, leave us a review. Biggest one, make sure you share it with somebody, because somebody out there could use the information on these podcasts. These are people that have been there, done that, and they are sharing their wisdom. Might as well share it with your colleagues as well. Above and beyond all, we really thank you for making the time and taking the time to come and listen to us or watch us here on YouTube. Make sure you take care of each other and take care of yourselves. So stay up, stay safe, stay healthy, and live. For myself, Coffee with Mike and Anita Parer. Ciao for now.
For more information on Java Chat, visit www.javachatpodcast.com. You've been listening to Coffee with Mike on Java Chat. Tune in weekly to this podcast for the next episode. You can also download or subscribe today on your favorite podcast platform. A production of Oasis Media Group, LLC. Located in Las Vegas, Nevada. Copyright 2019. All rights reserved.